Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Keep Coding podcast, the second episode. I'm here with Anton Wieslander from the Raw Coding Poem channel, and I'm super excited and a bit nervous to speak to him because, well, we're doing the same job. So, Anton, welcome to the podcast.
All right. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Yeah. Winter came early to Glasgow, so it's like cold as hell, and my neighbors downstairs are not turning their heating on. So,
What, you have to turn your heating on for, or they have to
yeah,
turn it on for
yeah,
you?
yeah. So like if you're living in flats and you're like a little bit like on the higher flat, if you're on the bottom one, like it's bad. Like the floor is cold and everything. If you're upstairs, then the neighbors turn their heating on. You get basically free heating, and
Right.
they're not doing it, so it's like gotta pay for it myself.
Nice. Well, you used to live in Manchester, right?
No, it
Or
was Leeds, pretty
Leeds?
close.
Okay,
Yeah.
close enough.
hmm
Right. Did you move? Are you still working at the same place?
Yeah. So I still work at the same place. It's called Crisp Thinking. I would say it's one of the more like techier companies. So it's tech oriented. So you can have like regular companies which are, you can say, business as usual, but they will have an IT team. This is primarily tech oriented. So you do have quite a bit of talent there. And it is a Leeds based, and what's it called, during COVID, when everybody was working from home, and I was like, well, I'm basically working from home full time, and my girlfriend at the time was finishing college, so she wanted to go and study in university in Glasgow, and we're like, "Can I move to Glasgow?" And they were like, "Yeah." So yeah, they let me move to Glasgow, and now I only have to like come down once in a while to what's it called. If there is like a company update or a retrospective, we basically come down and see the team and everybody in the office. So.
Nice. I don't think I could leave London, but I am actually driving fairly soon to Edinburgh for a nice like road trip and stay there for like 3-4 days. It's really pretty. Well, it looks
Yeah.
really pretty.
Well, yeah, Edinburgh is basically like a Harry Potter film. You arrive there and
Yeah.
it's everything just looks unreal. But yeah, London, I would not be able to live in London. Like megapolis, not my thing.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to let chat know because many people, or actually most people, wouldn't know, but this is the second time we speak. We talk to each other. The first one was this year in NDC Oslo, where
Mhm.
I think I was like the second day. You messaged me on Twitter and you're like, "Wait, are you in NDC Oslo?" Because I was speaking and I was running a workshop, which by the way I still do. And if you want to sign up for any of my workshops at NDC, please check the NDC website. Thank you very much. Very shameless, shameless and seamless plug. Um, but yeah, we met and we spent quite some time talking, which is ultimately what inspired this thing. Because I want to start talking to people who I follow or I admire what they're doing, and ultimately now I get to use my platform to bring them to the podcast. So you're one of the first guinea pigs to come, and hopefully those of you who watched the last Keep Coding podcast can actually tell the difference in quality and some of the animations and stuff. So on the NDC Oslo experience, first, how was it? Have you been to an NDC before?
No, I've never been to an NDC before. I've been to like a very, very small Leeds-based conference like years ago. It was nothing like it. So, yeah, it was. You watch these YouTube videos of of NDC and basically all the people presenting and stuff like that, and it was very like. I don't know how to explain it. It's basically just the energy in there where you walk in and everybody is a developer. You're
Yeah.
like all the like-minded individuals. It was, yeah, I guess you kind of feel at home, like amongst all of the nerds. So yeah. But yeah.
I 1000% agree. And NDC Oslo is the biggest and in my opinion the best.
Mhm.
Uh, it is just fantastic, and you feel right at home. Like you walk around, like diverse crowd. Everyone is so enthusiastic about what they're doing. And by the way, I'm gonna just plug this as well. If someone is just watching this on the VOD, these are usually done live. Well, actually, they're always done live. And if you want to win a free ticket for any of the upcoming NDCs, there's a sign up form I put in the chat. You can sign up to my newsletter, which I don't really send ever, and win a free ticket at the end of January, I think, or mid-January. Did you get recognized in NDC?
I had one person recognize me, so yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, otherwise no. I walked around. This was right around the time where I shaved my hair as well.
Yeah.
So like going from like very very long hair to like no hair. Even like the people that are in person that like would see me every day is like, who's this guy?
That I remember this guy, but he had a beard and hair.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Did they ask for a picture?
I can't remember. I think it was around the time when there was free beer going around.
Yeah, right.
They were like,
it's
yeah, right around that time. Yeah.
It's always like every time someone comes over and they say, I really like your videos. I'm like, yes, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like,
let's hope I'm not spreading misinformation.
Yeah. And I saw recently that David Fowler actually tweeted you.
Yeah, that was it was a very nice coincidence. It was first I had like because I check the comments every day basically. First I open up the studio up and I check the comments, and Scott Hanselman's in there, and he's like, very fantastic video, and I was like, oh,
Scott commented on a video.
Yeah. So I was just like, right, my day is made. And then what's it called? David tweets out in my channel, and my subscribers go up. So it was I think it was in the span of 1 or 2 days, but yeah, it was a pretty good 2 days.
Where's my comment, Scott? I didn't get one. I did get a tweet from David though, and when that happened, I can't remember how long ago it was. Like I remember my subscriptions just skyrocketed for the day.
Mm-hmm.
They went like 600, 700. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And like, do I just print this and I put it on the wall now? the tweet.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that with the comments.
Yeah, it's pretty big. And seeing people like David and like Scott actually acknowledge you, because I think what I've seen, especially historically, is that YouTube free content has been considered inferior to things like blogs. And nowadays, I see more low quality blogs than low quality YouTube videos. Actually, I think the game has stepped up significantly, and now people are way more welcoming of, from what I can tell, of YouTube videos to learn about different things, especially .NET, what we're doing.
I don't think I've been around for the era where the blogs were preferred over videos. I only remember myself ever kind of looking for tutorials on YouTube.
Yeah.
If I ever did look for an answer, like if I Google for something, sure, there will be a blog post, but I can definitely speak for deterioration of quality with blogs. It seems like some of them will just be like copy pasta from documentation, where documentation doesn't really explain it to you like a human. It's another developer explaining their thought process. But yeah, and they will be just plain bad. So yeah.
What do you think about those? Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No.
What do you think about those LinkedIn posts, which is like a photo, like an infographic of like 2 pieces of code, like good, bad, and they get like thousands of impressions, but most of them are inaccurate, or if they're not inaccurate, they're missing the context necessary to make that. So what do you think of content that is 1 second long, effectively, in terms of what they contain, but they're perceived as the way of doing the thing? Because I have my opinion, but I want to know from you.
I think there's a basic. Okay, first of all, I don't use LinkedIn that much. I've started using it now to post my Python playlist, where what's it called, where I'm teaching web scraping. The only code snippets that I saw, first of all, they were either to show what somebody is doing, so it's not like it was like a mini tutorial. The mini tutorials that I did see, I think there are two primary ones that stand out. First of all, it was Khaled on Twitter that just posts like how to create a variable or something like that, which I find completely useless, as I guess somebody would find that useful. I love Khaled, by the way. I'm not shitting on your content. And what's it called? The other ones, I think, I can't remember exactly his name, but it's like a blue sock puppet with, I think it's like some mid-European Polish or some name, who posts different comparisons of C# performances. So it will be like, I don't know, something like increment a number by just using plus plus, or increment a number by using plus equals, and for some reason the C# compiler will fail to optimize one and will optimize the other one. And those infographics, it's like, well, it's just like, that's cool to know. It's not like I'm ever gonna try to, when I'm building an application, I'm gonna be like, this, I'm gonna get this incrementation super fast. Yeah, that never happens.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's okay if they're, in my opinion, they're okay if they're just, well, if they're accurate is my biggest thing. But like, if you show that in this very specific use case, this very niche thing performs that, then like, okay, I get it, and you're gonna get the retweets and you're gonna get the likes, but you're harming, I guess, more people than not. And speaking of misunderstood topics and not exactly accurate topics, I found you back in 2020, September of 2020, because I was making this video of like the 8 await async things you shouldn't be doing or something like that. I was in this number that you shouldn't be, or you should be doing in C#. And you had already made a video I wanted to make, which had to do with how await async actually works and how you should think about this. And I think I shouted out in one of those videos, actually in that video. And that's how, I think you tweeted at me, or you said thank you in the comment or whatever. So why do you think await async is something that is even today so misunderstood? And those videos, by the way, in my experience, get thousands of views every single time.
Oh, it's even hard to explain this, but I think the biggest fault is Microsoft is at fault here, and just generally what .NET and C# is. If you think about it, you're not programming the computer per se, you're programming the runtime. So a C#, all of it is basically like sugar syntax, and there's a lot of magic around it. So in terms of what is actually happening in the computer, that's what people will fail to understand with async. It's like, you can get the physical motion, like you can get the muscle memory. You can say, I'm spinning up a task, I'm awaiting on it, I'm gonna get a result. That's your muscle memory, where you know how to use it. But like, why does it happen when I do these things to it? Or like, what is happening internally? There is no documentation on it. It's very hard to find material. This is really only if you know how, if you're working with like, what's it called? A programming language like C or C++, which I don't, which I basically had to go watch a video and see how that works with how they do things with threads or something like that. But yeah, like even the concept of like interrupts, like if you move a mouse, it will like send a signal to the processor to basically, as you have the call stack, it's going to put the instruction somewhere inside of there to basically do an interrupt. And it's like, you have this await in the middle of the function. How does it stop in the middle of the function and then continue in the middle of the function? You don't see the state machine behind there. And I think, async await in itself is just a monstrosity of like concepts molded together, and there is a lot to unpack. Like, once you know everything under the surface, like you know how it comes together, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, sound. And I'm gonna still say that it's okay to just use the tool. You don't really need to understand how it works 100%. And nobody understands everything 100%. Like we're not here worrying about how Windows pages its memory or anything like that, right? That is all abstracted for us. So yeah, I think Microsoft can do a better job at providing more insight information because they're the ones building it. And I guess this is partly where I think people who are doing .NET, they need to be careful, because if you think of .NET as like a bubble and Microsoft is building this bubble for you to work in, they basically have a grip on you. But now it's open source, which, you know, is questionable as well. Yeah, I think just Microsoft needs to do a better job at educating on these important topics, or like even complex topics.
Yeah, I think it's something that you're gonna get right like 90% of the time, but that 10% that you're gonna get it wrong, you're gonna get it really wrong. And if you really care about, you know, what's going on behind the scenes and what await async actually translates to, then I recommend you take your await async code, put it on sharplab.io or on Rider's low-level C# IL viewer feature, and you can just copy the state machine and it will compile. It doesn't have any internal components. It's really interesting. And it's also very interesting that, and I go into a tangent here, but I'm going to stop very quickly, that when you compile in release mode, the state machine is actually a struct. But when you compile in debug mode, it's actually a class.
Really? I didn't know. I thought they specifically brought in the value task for
nope.
to be... No? Okay.
If you return value task, that's a different thing. But the actual state machine will return, it will build a struct for the state machine instead of a class.
Didn't know that.
And it will add more fields as well. You can check that out. But back to the YouTube stuff, because, and I did mention it before, back when I was starting to program, really there was like a couple of channels for C# YouTube channels. Everything else was a blog. So you started 6 or 7 months before me. I started in January of 2019. I think you started September of 2018. Is that correct?
I don't remember exactly when I started, but I think it's
video.
I think it's around that time.
So why did you start? How did you start? And why did you go with like videos and not the blog?
I think it was I can't remember exactly why YouTube, but I think it was something along the lines of, I thought all of these people are just making money on YouTube, and here I am about to, you know, go get a job like a slave or something like that. And I now have a little bit of a different opinion about, like, if everybody was YouTubers, like, who would do the actual work? You know, you need a balance, and all sides need to respect each other. So like, yeah, I thought about, like, yeah, I'm gonna do YouTube. Like, I just thought, yeah, I can make money from YouTube. Yeah, and yeah, I know stuff. I can just start doing videos. I just need to start. And that was literally, I was like, right, I know how to build a blog. I'll just record myself building a blog, and that's how it started. And yeah, it was very tough at the beginning. I posted the video and it was like, this is the best content ever, like the best on the market. And I thought it was like the views are gonna go up straight away. And then like month passes, 2 months, I get 1 view, 2 views. I was like, but yeah, I just kept going, and slowly it like started to gain mass.
But you still have a full-time job, right?
Yeah. So I still work 9 to 5.
So in the beginning, you didn't actually have a face cam on, which is what I did as well. Why did you add it later?
I was talking to somebody, and they were saying, as you are watching a video and I'm just talking there, you just like zone out. You're like, or like space out. But like they said, if you would have your face on there, it's just something to like look at while you're rambling. So yeah, I think it was like that advice or something like that. I can't remember exactly who said it. So I was like, all right, time to get a webcam.
And you just put in the corner now. Do you have a good or expensive camera?
Now I have an expensive one. At the beginning, I'm trying to think if I had anything good. I don't think I used anything special. I think I just turned the webcam on my computer and that was the end of the story. So
Yeah.
I think it was like a really bad quality. But yeah, right now I got a Lumix. So yeah, I basically you use YouTube as Google and you're like a camera for streaming and they're like Lumix, how to set it up. I think I still struggle with it sometimes. Like I have to downgrade the quality a little bit. So you don't get like the delay between the sound and the that whole side of like setting up the sound. I still struggle with the sound like years later. But yeah, that was very painful.
Yeah, I have a console. I have so much equipment. I have an expensive camera as well. Actually, the lens is more expensive than the camera. Which is like, oh, nice background blur. But even with all this equipment, it's still a struggle sometimes. Like you said, even for this, like I'm using this camera feed in 2 applications. Obviously, we're on Discord and you can still see me, but also people here can see me. And you should know that you can have the same feed in 2 applications by default. So setting up, being able to use it in 2 applications is just a nightmare. But once you have it, you just pray it doesn't break. Why are you doing .NET content? Why are you doing C#? Is that the thing you're using at work and you just said, that's what I'm doing, I'm going to do it? Or did you find a hole in the market and you said, you know what, that .NET thing looks good?
No, so no hole in the market. It was literally I was at a job. I was in university and it was a 3rd year where there's like a gap year where you can go work in industry. So I got a job that said something Java. So I was like, I'll go work here because I did Java in university. So I thought I'm gonna do Java there. I went there and it was some kind of Java product that I was meant to be configuring. So it was about to be like the unluckiest workplace ever, but I managed to still get very lucky. And my my manager basically wanted me to do programming, which is what an actual development team was doing. And he all he knew, he was like, those guys are doing .NET. So all he did was basically said, you sit here, learn .NET and learn how to build apps. I was like, right, that's what I'm gonna do. And it was a very interesting time. Right before I started this job, my house also got robbed, so they stole my laptop. So my work laptop is the only thing that I had, right? So I had my work laptop. So all I did was like I programmed at work. I went home and I programmed there. So yeah, I had like 1, 2, 3 months where I was just like watching tutorials, Pluralsight. I think it was Sean Wildermuth, where it was .NET and Angular or something like that. So yeah, .NET primarily by chance. So that's I got lucky at work that a guy told me to basically learn it and build apps.
Damn, your house got robbed. That's my biggest scare.
Yeah, the paranoia is real now. You like check that the door is locked 3 times, and you leave the house, and you're like, did I lock the door?
Damn. And are you still working with .NET actively?
So, I work with it's actively, but it's not full time. I work primarily with Java, C# and Python. So I work with 3 languages, and then sometimes I write JavaScript. The reason for it is basically just have a bunch of components that require we treat programming languages as tools, right? So we don't really need a deep understanding of these programming languages. We rather use them for what they're good for. So if C# is like good for building big applications, we have experts that are C# experts that contribute to the .NET project, right? So they will generally say how things should be built and stuff like that. And then Python, because I work on a data collection team, if you're working with data, if you have to create a class for every single thing that you get off the internet, you're going to kill yourself. So yeah, Python there, you know, it's just a dictionary and, you know, Life is good. No struggle there. And then another thing, we're doing a little bit of Android development. So basically, the Java that I'm programming is on the Android.
Why not dynamic? We have dynamic.
That keyword shouldn't be in C#.
I agree.
I
And
think.
spoiler alert: there's a video coming.
Oh,
Go on.
yeah. I mean, the dynamic keyword. I just don't know how that got into the language. I think it was, it's like a workaround type of thing. It's like some C# dev was probably trying to do something. It was like, oh, it's dynamic.
Well, they needed it for. Well, we know why it came in because I've listened to the Anders Harsberg interview
Mhm.
when that came in, and at the time apparently it was a big thing to have com interop with things like Excel. So you'd be able to use Excel or like anything in the Office suite directly in C# using dynamic, like assuming the method or the property was there. And the other thing was like you were able at the time to run Python or Ruby in C#. So you would instantiate a Python class in C#, and then that class would be dynamic, and then everything in that class, every function, every property, every anything, could be used in C# with dynamic.
I didn't know.
Yep. So that was a thing. I don't know why it was a thing. Like, don't ask me. Like, who thought, oh, we have this amazing language here, C#. Let's load Python or Ruby.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably Microsoft being Microsoft, where they're saying, "Oh, look at all the developers over there. How about their programming language becomes our programming language?" So they just like.
and you mentioned Python, obviously. Now you shifted from creating purely C# videos to have one C# video and one Python video a week. Why?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a shot in the foot in terms of channel growth, because everybody who's watching .NET are like, "Why are you doing Python tutorials now?" Yeah, so I'm doing Python tutorials because I've seen how much less you need to know in Python to get a job than C#. Okay, and web scraping is the thing that I'm teaching, and it's a legitimate way that for companies to now be essentially data driven, right? If there's tons of information on the internet that you can basically collect and extrapolate and then perform other logic on, and I think it's if you're somebody who's starting programming, you're Googling Python beginner tutorial, so you're gonna learn some Python, I don't know, like display a graph or something like that. But then hopefully I come in on the side of you get an actual skill that you can get a job with, and we're doing actual things where like there's a website, we're getting data from it, we're storing it, and hopefully I'm gonna try and make it fun by like, because currently the last 2 episodes that went out, it's about how to search for graphics cards on websites and add them to your card. So a couple of a couple of episodes later, it's going to be like how do we get blog posts, how do we get like prices of cryptocurrencies or other stuff, and because I know a lot of people are interested in building trade bots, so maybe I will touch on that as well.
Right. Interesting. And you think that, actually, I guess for you to use it, you think that, but is that, in your experience, easier to do with Python compared to C#? As an experienced developer, because I know you mentioned beginners, but you, as someone who knows C#, are you better off using Python, or are you more efficient using Python?
For data collection, 100% more efficient using Python. One thing I would say, you will need to use like a framework, which I will cover later as well, but basically the asynchronous story in Python is trash, okay? Concurrent request processing in C# is way better. Just way better in C#. There is async await in Python, but their HTTP client library that's built into Python isn't built around being async. So you will have to get a library. You will need to write. You will basically have to adapt the way that you write Python, and it's like it changes your style completely.
But they do have a way they sync, or the equivalent.
Yeah. They have async await. Yeah,
That's pretty neat to see it in all of these places now after so many years that Microsoft had. And obviously Microsoft did not invent the concept, but how intuitive it is with the way they sync. I think C# was the first one to have it implemented that way. So is the plan to continue with more Python content, or just segregate your content like this and have half of it be C#, half of it be Python? Because like you said, you are you are leaving half of your audience out of the video you're publishing, and anyone who's doing YouTube at a high scale will tell you that, well, you're killing your click-through rate by doing that, because if I'm not interested in that, I'm not going to click on it. Lower click-through rate, lower chance for the video to be promoted further on YouTube. And also lower chance for that video to be recommended again to that person who saw a video from you and didn't click it. So those who don't watch your Python videos also in the future will not be shown your C# videos as often. So how have you thought of that, and how are you going to deal with it?
I've it's basically in my head ever since we talked since NDC, because I think you brought it up there.
Yep.
I know I know I'm basically shooting myself in the foot with the Python tutorials, but I think like for the 1 or 2 people that will find the playlist and will watch it, I guess I'd rather have that. I'm not worried about the what's called the click-through rate. I feel like basically I kind of already lost the momentum like a year ago or so. So I feel like I'm not in a hurry to kick the momentum up with my channel again. I know I can do it a year later or something like that. Well, who knows? Maybe in a year I'll be like, I'm burned out or whatever, which I'm not betting on. But yeah, I'm more interested in 1 or 2 people who are gonna watch that playlist and are gonna be like, this was awesome, and I managed to get a Python job because of it. So if I hear that will be like that will beat what's it called my YouTube channel growing faster in the current span of time. But I think once I do finish this playlist of Python, I'm just gonna go back to doing C# only, because I already know this, and I've done massive, big tutorial series, right? And I've done them even though knowing that conceptual, topical videos kind of things, like where you're just talking about a specific thing and you're covering it in an interesting manner. I know that content is always going to be better than long-wind series. Like long-wind series are always like big, and then they all go down.
And you can watch that. I think we talked about it in Oslo. You can watch, like, if you watch any of the lecture series that universities publish, I think MIT has one, or AI or something like that. The first 2 episodes, 10 million views, 2 million views, 100,000 views, 5,000 views. The drop-off is significant. And there's this problem where if someone sees that the 5th video is published in the series, and the 5th video is 30 minutes long, and you have 2 more hours of videos to watch before that, you're going to be like, I don't want to just jump into half of the series. I have to watch the whole thing, so I won't even bother. So it's very hard to get into. That's why I don't do series. And it's ultimately why I'm doing courses at my website, because I get to do them, the whole thing, in a single, splash, and I don't have to depend on the algorithm. Why didn't you create a separate YouTube channel? Is it just because the Python thing is just for now and you're going to stop doing that?
Yeah, Python thing is definitely for now. It's the main reason why I'm just posting the Python stuff is I have a couple of friends and family that they could be developers. They could be doing so much better than what they're currently doing. So it's ultimately I'm putting out these videos and they're watching them. Okay. So yeah, at some point they're gonna stop, and yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, what is the one topic? I mean, I know that the topic that you have made the most videos on, but what is the one topic that you know that if you make a video on it, it's gonna get views, no matter what?
I don't know. Well, if I make another async await video, an updated one, all right, I can regurgitate what I've already done. I mean, I feel like everybody wants to know about CQRS and event sourcing and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna be doing a little bit more architectural or design videos. So I'm thinking about doing things like a form builder. So like if you're a programmer, right, you want to be efficient. Like that's the one of the main things that like gets you hooked, where you're like, I have this big solution, but I can like condense it to this like small thing. And one of the real ways to actually write less code is by designing the system correctly from the beginning. If your system has to submit 1,000 forms, 1,000 different forms, you don't need to create 1,000 classes, 1,000 endpoints, and 1,000 database repositories, whatever, and making them all generic, right? And 10 layers, right? That is that is going crazy. What you want to do is you want a class that represents fields, a class that represents a form, and you build your forms, and then you have infinite scalability. Anytime you need a new form, somebody goes and builds it in UI, and yeah, that's it. So it's going to be that sort of content. Like, how do you think at design stage? So, and what is your like? You go two ways. Like, if you make the bad choice at design, which way does it go? And if you make a good choice at design, which other way is it going to go? So that's my current plan for C# videos, which is going to be like form builders, maybe rule engines or like blueprint systems. I think thinking of covering some messaging stuff or something like that. So yeah, but yeah, if you want is easy easy views, everybody is going to be event sourcing. Never done it, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think in general, event sourcing, CQRS, mediator, DDD, clean architecture, those things will always give views. Like vertical slice as well. And in my opinion, not all of them rightfully so, but people, the best achievement on some of those things are their advocates have convinced people that they need them, in my opinion. And ultimately, the winners are the advocates and consultants who are paid to implement them for each company rather than those who use them. Because most of them are designed to sound intelligent and solve most of your problems immediately, which is when you're paying as well. But that's maybe a story for another time. Maybe if I can have one of those experts in the podcast. And if you wanna in the chat, let us know who you wanna see here as a guest. Please let me know. I have invited quite a few people. Some of them you know very well, and some of them you don't. Because one of the things I want to do with this podcast is to not have the same people over and over again, and make it sound like a press tour where they just, we launched this new thing. Like, I want to know more about the people behind the tooling and the services. So, you mentioned a few topics, but the one you've made the most content on by far, and you're still making actively content on it, is authentication and authorization. So why do you have so much content on that? Why do you think it is so watched? And I'm going to ask other questions after you answer those.
So why did I make so much content on authentication? Right around that time where I picked up .NET, right? Of working for that company, let's say about 7-8 months into my .NET career, I was like, I'm gonna build an app, right? I'm doing I don't know if you've seen the videos, but basically like this martial arts tricking, where you're doing kicks and flips and stuff like that. So and it's also it's in martial arts tricking, you can essentially have battles between people, right? So kind of like gymnastics. One person does a pass, the other person does a pass, and then people judge. So I wanted to create a system, essentially an application where people can upload videos and a battle online. So they will upload a pass, the next person upload a pass. So it's like a turn-based video uploading, and then you have like the tribunal where people go and judge to see who wins, and then there's like scores, reputation, and all that. But the main thing that I wanted is I wanted an app and I wanted a website. For the app, I found a framework called Ionic. So it was Ionic and Angular, and at the end, and it's plus Cordova. At the end, I found out like I don't even need Ionic. I just needed Cordova to just put the thing on there. But yeah, like I didn't know anything back then. So basically, you go into Google. How do you authenticate a mobile application? JWT. How do you generate JWT in ASP.NET Core? Identity server. So that's basically my entrance to the rabbit hole, and I think the next year or something was basically painfully trying to get the whole thing to work. So at that point I was like reading about authentication and all that stuff, and yeah, that is how I basically have the knowledge and basically decided I struggled with this authentication thing, and I'll just make some content on it. So basically same as with the blog. I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna do it because I can.
But now on every single one of your videos, the first one, which are super popular, you have like hundreds of thousands of views on that series. You have a warning saying update, check description. So why is that?
Well, I'm 100% sure people are still going, like YouTube is going to recommend the higher viewed video. So if somebody's searching for ASP.NET Core authentication, they can find it towards they can reach the more recent one, because I think the recent one is more polished. Like the whole premise of raw coding is that, and I guess generally in programming, like, if we talk about a service, we want to take some data about a thing and move it across to like store it somewhere. It's all abstract, and it's very natural to talk about. But then if you start to write code, suddenly you have these classes, you need to create interfaces. It's no longer the thing that you were originally thinking. So when I try to create my videos, I try to like just narrow down to only the essential ideas that you need. So I think the tutorials that I'm making today are closer to the idea of authentication rather than what I've taught before. Before, it was more of like, how do you do it? Today, it's more like, how does it happen?
Right. So I think that's one of the biggest problems with video content is if it gets outdated or if you're not happy with it in the future, you just can't go back and change it. So like if I make a video, and I have those videos and they're still up, where I'm talking about something and I'm not really 100%, I'm not agreeing with my past self, people watch that back in September of 2020 and they think, oh, that's what Nick thinks today. The problem is I can't go ahead and change it. I can no longer use annotations on YouTube because they removed that, one of the best features they had, stupidly. And I can't take it down because taking it down just kills my total view count and my SEO push on YouTube. So it's very problematic. And, you had to go back and do that for all of your videos. And I'm sure all of them are still getting views because they're very highly ranked when someone is searching for that type of content. So I think that is the biggest problem I have with making a lot of content. But why do you think?
Right, I'm gonna interrupt you there.
Oh, no,
Also,
please.
like, yeah, to make those videos less watchable, so they can actually, they're like, what is going on? And click on the new video. I just went ahead and put tons of ads on them, so like, don't watch this video.
All
Like,
right.
watch it at your detriment. Otherwise, give me money or like go watch the new stuff.
That's a good plan. I have tons of ads everywhere though, so it's not gonna work for me.
At the beginning, I made the mistake. I was like, I think it was. I remember this moment vividly. I was like, I think I was deep into the authentication playlist, and YouTube was rolling out an update where they were like, "We're gonna put ads everywhere, mid videos, everything," and I was like, "This is horrible. I hate when there are adverts. I'm not gonna put adverts on my videos." So I was like, I went to every single. I spent time removing adverts on videos.
You know, there's a mass button where you can select all of them and do it for all of them, right?
No. Well, I'll need to go and find it. But yeah, I didn't know. I had to go back. I had to remove the adverts, and I was like, and I made a post. I was like, no adverts on my videos. Fuck. So yeah, big mistake if you're ever gonna do content creation.
Do you still have that on, or did you turn them on now?
I turned them on.
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening who don't know, YouTube, I think it's 2 or 1.5 years ago, they did this thing where they said, you know what, we're gonna turn on all of your, because ads have a pre-roll, which is what you're watching before the video starts, and then you can have several mid-rolls, which is during the video, and that depends on how likely you are to click off a video if you get mid-roll, how long ago you got an ad, and so on, and then you have one in the end. And to have a mid-roll or one in the end, I think your video has to be at least 8 minutes. It used to be 10, they reduced it to 8. And on that update, they said, we're going to turn everything on for everything. And the revenue skyrocketed. And I, like you, I didn't have mid-rolls on. I had one ad right before the video ended, which I was also shooting myself in the foot, because it turns out YouTube wants to make money, and they will push videos who have ads over videos who don't have ads. So there's that implication as well. And there was a significant revenue growth as well for the channel by doing that, because if you're halfway through a tutorial, it's very unlikely you're going to click off the video if you get a mid-roll, because you're invested, you're there to see what's going on. So the biggest drop-off is usually the first minute or two. After that, you're in. So that was a weird update, but it kind of gave me the pass to say, you know, if some, because people used to say, what do you have ads in your videos? I'm like, you know, I want at some point to be able to do this full time. I kind of have to gauge how much money I can make from all my different sources, and YouTube AdSense is one of them. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small one, relatively small, but I have to know.
Yeah, and you definitely want to see the money coming in from YouTube. It's a very big confidence boost because it's such a long time where you're just spending time making videos and nothing is happening. You're basically like going against like your human instinct, where like nothing is happening, and why am I still doing this? You know, you may be enjoying it on some point, on some level, but you know, when you are becoming older, like making money, well, kind of takes priority.
Yeah. And Big Pod in chat said, from what I heard, YouTube doesn't push videos with ads more. If you have videos, if you have monetization and monetized videos, and if you don't have, the monetized one will get pushed more. It's more likely. Now, I want to ask you, where do you get ideas for your videos? Because you cover different topics. And, you know, obviously I make videos as well, but where do you get yours?
It's mostly stuff where I struggled. So if I struggle to understand some kind of idea, yeah, I try to find like a challenging idea, and when I sit down to record, I'm mostly like explaining it, re-explaining it to myself, where I try to remember or try to think what I was thinking like at the time where I didn't know it, and like re-explain it to myself. So yeah, it will be just any topic where I thought like, yeah, I didn't know how this worked, I didn't know how that worked, or if I find something interesting right now, I'll talk about that. One thing that like once you like if you one thing that I'm appreciating now is like once you have little experience, when you have little experience, you can't listen to somebody explain an idea and be like, I know how to implement that. But now it's like if somebody talks about like some architectural pattern or something like that, I'll be like, I know exactly what kind of code to write for this, and I know the trade-offs that are going to happen as well. So like before I wasn't able to make the second type of videos where I can like basically explain an idea, and because I didn't even understand that, you know, I can explain an idea, somebody will listen and be like, oh, I can actually implement this without looking at code or like having a code example or anything like that.
So would you say that you are learning better, or you know you understand something if you can explain it?
100%, yeah, 100%. It's also like some of the stuff that I record, like I'll sit down and I'll be like, no practice. I'll just sit down and I'll like start explaining this thing to myself essentially. And at one point I'll just be like, oh, well, something doesn't make sense here. I'll be questioning my own explanation at this point. So at this point I'll just stop the video and go research and go try things until I know I nailed down the topic and the explanation is satisfying to me. So then I go and re-record it and actually, well, then I can like complete the circle on the video.
Right. And in your current workflow, then, what would you say is the hardest thing about making videos?
I would say the editing. The editing definitely, yeah, the editing kills me off. Like you're just sitting there and you're like dragging around the thing, and yeah, it's not nice. The editing will go better if the recording went smooth, and the recording will go smooth if you had a bad time and you're recording it for the third time, right? So if recording sucks, editing will be easier. If basically, if you had a bumpy recording but it's more or less one take, then for me the editing kind of suffers, because I'll have like some, English is like a mysterious language. Like it's the easiest one, but it's also like sometimes I can't even remember the words, but you will try to pronounce something and it will be impossible for like 10 or 13 attempts. You're like,
do you watch the whole video as you're editing it?
Yeah. I've done the mistake one too many times. I watch the whole video while editing it, so I'm cutting out all the spaces where I'm either talking rubbish or I'm just sitting, I'm like I'm losing my mind because I don't understand what is happening, or something unexpected happens during the video. I'll like quickly Google and make it look as if I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So yeah, and then once I finish editing, I will also watch everything, but I cannot watch my videos on single speed. I watch double speed everything, and yeah.
So wait, you record them, you edit them, which means usually 1.5 times that you're watching them, because you have to stop, cut, rewatch the whole thing, that it seamlessly makes sense. And then so it's like if it's a 10-minute video, it took you 10 minutes, or let's say you recorded for 10 minutes, then it took you 10 minutes to record, around 15 to 20 minutes to edit, and then you rewatch the remainder.
Yeah, so wow. I rewatched the whole thing from beginning to end, and I rewatch it because there will be a segment of the video where I will try to explain it and I'll mess up a word, and then I will try to explain it again and I'll mess up the word again. I'll try to explain it again. And as I'm like cutting out this segment, sometimes I will have something that goes like, I'm trying to explain it, and I will have this
Right.
double. And but the watching process at that point is just listening to make sure that I haven't left in parts. There was a period where I don't know what it is, but I'm using DaVinci Resolve as the editing software. It's incredible that something like that can be available for free. Um, I had a problem where the videos, after I rendered them, it put a blip sound, like a screamer essentially, at
Right.
random points in the video. I don't know what it was, but basically because of that, I watch the video, I upload it to YouTube, and once it's on YouTube, I watch it again as well, from start to finish, while it's private, to make sure that they're not there.
Wow.
So I rewatch my videos too many times,
That is
and
a lot.
so, but yeah, but the two last rewatches are mainly to make sure that the sound is not messed up.
Yes, yeah, I never had the. I had the saying the same thing twice thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing I had as well was I have a scroll of all of my Patreons in the end. I used to have a scroll, now I have actually, no, it is still a scroll. And in one of the videos, I didn't have it because I do the thing every time. I don't have a canned version. So it's like, that's all I have for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And then I'm like, special thanks to my patrons for, and you can see me saying that because I do it in the mic, and I thought that's so embarrassing, but I'm not cutting it out. It's fine. Like, I only found out later because someone said in the comments, "Oh, I actually see you saying the thing. Wow." So yeah. So damn, that's a lot. That's many times. Have you thought of hiring an editor?
I had an editor email me, and I think I told them no, because I don't. Well, first of all, I don't think that's the wisest use of my money right now. Second, I don't think be able. I haven't tried, but my thinking is, it's like such a, I don't know how to say it, like intimate process for me. I'm like editing my video, it's my
Yeah.
baby over here. Like I can't just hand it over to another person to like, yeah, to do whatever with it. I guess if he would do a good job, but if I'm talking about something, um, let's say that requires specific knowledge, and I mess up a bit of it, because what I do sometimes in my videos is I will explain something, but I will first say it one way and instantly I say it another way, so to like kind of give two perspectives, and I think that intent would be lost with an editor, where am I making a mistake at this point, or am I just restating the same thing in a different way? So yeah, I don't I I'll probably try an editor at some point, but I don't think I will. It won't be anytime soon. Maybe
Yeah.
if I'm gonna be recording a course or something like that.
Yeah. I think for a course it's even harder. That's where I want to have full quality control because it's like every little bit matters. Because if you're recording like a 5, 6, 7 hour, 8 hour course, there's no way all 8 hours are without a mistake and what do you keep in. But I 100% agree with you. I don't have an editor, and I've been approached by multiple editors in the past. But like you said, how do you communicate? Like the best thing that can happen is the editor I'm getting is a C# developer. And if they're a C# developer, they will not be editing videos. They will be working, making more money.
Yeah.
So it's this very tricky situation. What I do want to do, however, is eventually have my videos turned into blogs. So pay
Blogs.
someone, yes, pay someone to go watch my videos and write a blog based on the video, and then publish that on my website. So I can start building a presence there with SEO. So that eventually will probably happen. I just
I
have to find someone who nails the tone of voice down because it has to sound like me.
See, so they have to write it as if you've written
As
it.
if I said it.
As if you said, okay.
Yeah.
All right, because you're saying it and they're just recording.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest things about my videos is, well, me. It's not just the content, because you can watch any faceless YouTube channel that just talks slowly and explains something in painful, slow, not even detailed, but just redundancy.
Not hinting at anybody.
And you're laughing because there's tons of people who do that. It's not to a specific person. And it's the reason why I started making videos. I found that the tutorials who did exist at the time were just painfully slow, and everyone would like 2x to learn something that has, even if you 2x it, you can't remove the redundancy out of a video. It's still repetitive and boring. So at some point I might pay someone to do that. And people do say that, hey, have ChatGPT write a blog based on the video. But how do you get ChatGPT to learn from the video and write the blog? And then someone has to vet it anyway. So at that point, you might as well write it. So I thought of doing that. It's not cheap. People who do that are still charging it. And for those of you who don't know, paying for editing is also not cheap, especially when the video won't make the money back for the editing, because most of them won't. So you have to self-fund it. And if you do that, then the time you spend not editing has to make that money delta to make it worth it. But if I'm not editing, I'll probably not going to be working on something else that will make me money. It's just a free time. So it's a very tricky situation in my experience to get an editor on board. At some point, I wish I could do that.
You're going to need your free time to actually be more valuable than the time you're spending editing the video. I think also another, you know how like if you have a gaming or these Twitch channels, they will have somebody like just putting compilations of or cutting up clips, like podcasts have clips and stuff like that. I think nothing really, I don't think really anything exciting happens during what's it called during essentially like these educational videos, but definitely something that could be like something that you could put in a t-shirt, like having a little what's it called a short extracted from a video. So if somebody watches it and be like, oh, this could be a short, that could be a short, and they're just extracting it, and then you can just upload them.
Yeah, which I've done as well. I've done it with the live streams. I'm planning to do more of it with the podcast as well. But it has to be a very specific type of content to actually get views on shorts. How far ahead do you pre-record? So usually you publish 2 videos a week. How many videos you have scheduled ahead of time?
Sometimes it varies from 0 to 2 weeks. It depends.
2 weeks. Yeah.
To 2 weeks, yeah. The reason is currently I'm working on a C# programming course, and so I am pretty much like when I need to I'm basically working up to the deadline for the video, because for me I've been working C# has a lot of stuff in it. Okay, there's a lot to cover. It's pretty much if I'm doing for YouTube, I'm working up to a deadline. I'm like, okay, I need to make a video for Tuesday. I'll do it over the weekend, and if I struggle to do it over the weekend because I don't know, OBS lagged out or whatever, or the sound or the microphone was off or something like that, something stupid, I'll need to re-record it. So then I'll do it on Monday, or I'll just Tuesday I can't do it like early in the morning. I think I had a couple of videos where I was like, I recorded in the morning and then uploaded before lunchtime.
I had that as well. Usually I have 2 weeks. I try to never go below 2 weeks, just because something happens. I have to fly somewhere. I have to go somewhere unexpectedly. There is no way I'm losing a Monday or a Thursday. There is just no way. I haven't done it in 2 years, ever since I think maybe more. But once I consistently started uploading twice a week, that's it. That's that. And I've actually found that, maybe I'm going into the next question, but I found that uploading more videos doesn't necessarily mean more views. In fact, in most cases, it means less, because you have to think of your audience. And if the audience is software engineers with jobs, especially for me, who I am doing advanced stuff, so I am talking to people who I guess have a job, they do complicated stuff, then if I give you 3 videos a week instead of 2, even if the amount is like 20, 25 minutes, you have to find 25, 30 minutes a week to watch me. And if you skip a video, it's worse than me. So it's less likely the next video will perform well. So I'm very careful not to make too much content. And actually, this is one of the reasons why this VOD, the video on demand for the podcast, goes into a separate YouTube channel. Because I know less people will watch the podcast, and I don't want that to have an effect on the main channel. So it is streamed here because streams are promoted and they're excluded from the algorithm. But if you want to watch it as a VOD, then it's separate. And it's also why all of my VODs for my YouTube channel is behind the paywall. You have to be of the live streamer YouTube member to watch them, because then YouTube excludes them from the algorithm and does basically less harm on me.
Yeah, so the people that actually want that content, they will pay for it. But like the regular Joe that is like, I want to get useful C# stuff in my feed.
I mean, the podcast and the live streams are useful, but actually useful, yeah. You have to do that, and that's something I can live with. You know, maybe not everyone can do that straight away, but since I'm touching on paid stuff, I saw that you now moved your Patreon to be what I had for a long time, which is pay to get access to my source code, which I think is something. Did we talk about this in Oslo? I think we touched on it.
We talked about this. It was. I had this amazing idea, right? Because I come from Latvia, which is basically a post-communist country. So I had this amazing idea. I was like, all right, people are gonna give me money for code, right? It's essentially virtual thing. It's like it doesn't exist, right? So I was like, you can have something physical instead. So I was like, right, I'm gonna be good-willed. I'm gonna say like, right, I want to get rid of Patreon, and I will just say I'll just give away my code for free, and then you come buy stuff from me, right? I realized that is I kept that up, I think, for a year or something like that, but yeah, I moved back. The reason is people don't care as much, right? It's the internet. Nobody cares really. So they will just like a free code. Yeah, I'll just have it. So yeah, I'm moving back to Patreon because pay me or I'll stop doing this, because yeah, I actually want to at some point to just rely on this or do this full time, or do or use this as a transition to do something else in my life. So yeah, definitely if anybody is ever going to start doing content creation, do not give away your source code for free. It's like the easiest thing that you can do to start making money, and it's just going to give you so much more encouragement. You don't need to do the mistake that I did.
Yeah, and everyone who started doing content now, some of the newest creators, they all doing that, and they're pricing it accordingly. Well, from what I've seen. So the story with this, and by the way, let me just give you my background on why I did it as well. Was first, I was pessimistic. I knew people don't care about supporting just out of goodwill. Now they do. You know, in many cases, people who are YouTube members, they just want to support, or some Patreons also want to support, and I deeply appreciate it, because that's what fuels the free content on YouTube. Like if you stop doing that, you know. So it is very important, but I know that some of them need an incentive. So at the time, I think Tim Corey was only for one of his series, which was the Team Core application or whatever it was. He was, I don't think he was, actually, no, it was a tier on, a tier on Patreon. So if you want to get access to any of the source code he shows in the videos, you subscribe to his mail list, which is very valuable for a content creator to have one. And that's for free. You just subscribe and you get a download link and you have the zip. But for the Team Core, you had to pay like $10 a month. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do £3 or £4 a month, and you get access to everything I've made. And that actually worked great. And gradually I increased to 5 to 6, and now people price accordingly. And I don't think necessarily that makes sense for the content you're getting back. And obviously, I've adjusted for inflation as well. It's not what it used to be. The price is higher. You get way more content. You get 300 projects worth of source code every time. But it is a large part of what fueled my transition into going to do this full time, because YouTube AdSense is very poor. But because we're in a niche that is technically highly monetizable, developers in general have money, especially in more Western countries. It's the easiest way to monetize. So I agree. If you're starting out and you really believe in your content, pay wallet. Obviously, and that's the biggest thing, I always show the full video on the full code on the video I'm showing. So I'm not cheating anyone out of their money. If you want to pause the code, the video, and type everything out, you can. But if you want to put the convenience, take the convenience out of that, then it's a $5 or a £6, whatever. And it really helps. And there's a question in chat which says, how does that affect the licensing? Well, it's not open source. So the code, it doesn't rely on any license. It's just proprietary. You buy it, you use it, sort of thing. And technically, in my case, I still own the copyright, but that's maybe a deeper conversation. I won't go after anyone, but if someone does something stupid, then I can act on that. So if you're making content, if you're planning to do that, I agree. That's the first thing you should be looking to monetize. Now, what I would recommend is first, start building a mail list, newsletter, something to have emails, and then maybe, because that's what I did. In the beginning, I said, subscribe to my mail list, you get access to everything. And I built a really big mail list, which I still use to this day. But later, maybe charge some money if you think you have enough there. I think will help. So is the dream to do this full time? And by the way, if your company is watching, you're joking. You're not telling the truth.
I would say the dream is not to do of this full time. I would like to do more of like a service, or like own a company kind of thing, and employ people. I think that would be that's where I would like to be. I would like to have my own company that does software. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to talk about like too much of what it's going to be and stuff like that, because when you're walking around and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, like I might change my mind, and then I'm like, oh shit, I said it, now I have to do it, and then it's like in the back of my I'm like, I might do something else. Nobody knows.
Okay, then I'm not gonna ask what you're planning to do. Why do you think people watch your videos over someone else who talks about C#? Because there's many people who make C# content, and some of them have been doing it for longer than us. And some of them haven't broken 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers. So why do you think that is?
I want to say luck, but you can like skew luck. If you, I guess let's put it this way: if I do something mean to a person, right, he's gonna be sad, right? And if I do something mean if I do that same mean thing to all the other people in the world, they're all gonna think it's bad, right? So we share, most of the humans will share the same traits. So let's say if I'm finding something confusing and I have a compelling and enjoyable explanation to the problem, other people will probably enjoy it as well. So that's the only thing that I'm basing it on. Like Yeah, if I had to say, like, why would somebody watch my content over somebody else's? They enjoy the way that I explain it. So I find it that, look, this is the way I think, and if I explain it to myself, if most of the people are identifying with how I think as well, well, you fall into this basket, and basically you get one-to-one knowledge transfer.
Yeah, someone in chat said good reasoning and funny.
Yeah, so if I drop some sense of humor about Russians not being able to travel anymore or something, they're like, yes. So yeah.
By the way, for those of you who don't, for those in the chat who watched this or the podcast and don't know, you speak Russian, right?
Yeah. So I'm half Swedish, half Russian. My mom is from Russia. My dad is from Sweden, and yeah, I grew up in Latvia. So basically, Latvia itself is a post-Soviet country, and you have. It varies. You may have. I would say, from my perspective, it's probably 40% Latvian and then 60% Russian people. So there would be more. I feel like there is more Russians in Latvia than there are actual Latvians. And when I say Russian, these are Russian Latvians who are.
Right.
Who had Russian families before, like when during the Soviet Union it fell apart, and then they just left. They just stayed there, right? So yeah.
Yeah, just want to point that out, just in case someone says, "Oh, he's
Yeah,
it's like no,
I got the license.
Yeah, you get to do that. Okay. Do you get mean comments, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I do get mean comments. I had like I enjoy answering them as well. Like I think like, why would you leave a mean comment? All right. It's the only reason could be as if like you don't like yourself, or like you have some kind of internal problem. So you're like, this video made me so angry, I'm gonna tell this guy whatever, right? So when I'm reading an angry comment, it's like, the dude is not like, whoever is posting this, he's himself is not feeling all right. So I'm gonna try to, I will either troll them back at that point, or I will actually attempt to correct them if they are very stubborn. And yeah, if they're very stubborn, they are not going to listen to anything. They're just going to be like, no, you're wrong, and whatever, right? There isn't like a exchange of information that is happening. So at that point, the conversation is completely useless. So you can just like keep trolling them.
Do you remove comments?
No. Actually, I remove only spam comments. There are a lot of comments that are like porn links and stuff like that. So I remove those.
Okay, yeah, they're way better now than what they used to be. It used to be a mess, but now YouTube has this extra spam filter. The problem I have found is because people sometimes post code, when something looks like code, or like they type .NET or C#, the spam filter catches it and it thinks it's something bad because of the hashtag. And I have many people saying, "Oh, you delete comments. Oh, I showed you how to correct your code, and you deleted it." And it's like, no, I did not. Like, YouTube is really weird with spam deletions, and many times if you post code or links or whatever, it's just gonna get removed. Or if you say .NET or C#, many times it's being caught. I found. I don't know if you had that as well.
Yeah, I had that. So the funniest one that I can remember is when I made the CQRS video. I had two people come in to comment. It was first of them was Code Opinion. I can't remember his name, but
Derek, I think.
Yeah, Derek. Yeah, so he said something. I replied, and then I can't remember what it was exactly. I could see, you see the notification for the comment that he's written, and then when you open it, it's no longer there.
Yes.
Yeah. So all that I can imagine is he wrote up like a big wall of an explanation And yeah, YouTube just removed all of his good effort. So yeah, I offered him to send it to me on Discord, and I'll post it on his behalf. But obviously, he's got better things to do.
Yeah, so I rarely delete comments. I do reply as well sometimes, but if someone is blatantly wrong and they insist, then I'll remove the comment, because at that point you're being harmful to other people who are watching the video. Because sometimes confidence just make you think that, yeah, what you're saying is actually the right thing. Have you ever taken? Please go on.
No, yeah, I was gonna say I haven't thought about it that way. Where if somebody's like watching the video and then reads the comment and is like, "Wait, this guy disagrees. He's probably correct." You know,
And,
like,
yeah.
but the way that you should take it is like, this is a point of reference. That is a point of reference.
Yeah.
I don't know who's correct. Let me go and check it myself.
And sometimes you have replied, and YouTube is way better now in showing when the creator of the video has replied to that comment. There's actually a raw coding replied here. But there used to be a thing, and not everyone expands the whole conversation. So even if that comment was a jump off point to have a good discussion, you'll never know if you don't actually proactively do that. Have you ever taken a video down?
Of my own?
Of your own?
I don't. I think there were a couple, but not the ones that I've posted publicly. I had this thing like earlier on. I wanted to do like an open source challenge. So I had a client library that interacts with Patron, and I've left it unfinished. The reason I left it unfinished, and this is actually a funny story, I left it unfinished, and I was like, right, I'm gonna get some people to contribute to open source, and I will give away some prizes. So I was like, I've what's it called? I've essentially created tickets, and I said, these are easy ones, these are hard ones. And the medium ones, right? So if you complete a medium ticket, you get a LinkPad license or something like that.
Yeah.
I posted on Reddit. I think I posted it on YouTube. I posted it on Discord, and there were a couple of people that wanted to contribute. And there was a guy that came from Reddit that was like, the 20-year experienced .NET developer, one of them guys. And he submits a PR, basically doesn't do anything that's outlined on the task, does everything else. And I'm like, well, obviously, I just tell him, like, do the actual work. So he gets angry. Then we have like a whole discussion. But yeah, I had a video. Sorry, I'm like trailing off completely of the question. But yeah, the videos that I've taken down were meant to be like explanations for what the code was written. So it was like introductory video. There were private videos that basically said, this is what the code is and how to navigate it and stuff like that. So if you want to contribute, you can basically have an introduction to the library. So once that was done, I took it down. But yeah.
Cool. Since you mentioned Reddit, and I didn't actually have a question for that, but it's actually a good question. Do your videos get posted on Reddit? Oh, actually, you don't post your videos on Reddit, right? Right. So
I don't. I'm not aware.
Back in the day, I used to post my very first videos, and like nobody would watch them, or like everyone would just downvote them. But now I just pray that my videos don't get posted on Reddit, and I have alerts on my name when I'm referred in different places. I have Google Alerts, and I have another tool which, if it's on any Reddit comment or on any Reddit post, I get notified. And every time I see when I see new comment, it's usually good, because people say, oh yeah, you should check out Nick's video on the topic. If it's in a post, I know that it's one of my controversial videos where I go like super in depth and like unsafe code, and they're just gonna destroy me. So every time I see them, I'm just scared.
Yeah, I'm not. I was never a big Reddit user. I think the only time I posted was that specific contest thing, because it was most of the time, if I do venture out, it will be like somebody on Discord, one of my viewers will be like, "Oh, you should try this thing." I was like, "Yeah, why not?" It was like one of my Russian viewers were like, "You want to create a Telegram?" And I went ahead and created a Telegram, and I'm like, "Oh, what do I use the Telegram for?" It's like, I don't know. So like, so I just like there, I just have a raw coding Telegram like just laying about. It's like, well, I'm probably never gonna use it.
Yeah, Reddit is an interesting place. Those subreddits, the .NET and the C sharp, are. Anyway, moving on. Um, Amihai, who's another creator as well in .NET, he tipped. So thank you so much for the super chat on the podcast live. But he asked, how do you stay consistent for so long? What are some hacks for saving time and being more efficient?
It's a hard one. Well, it's not. You just do it. You just do what needs to be done. It's like because you want to do it, so you just do it. Um, there is like you're asking the question, but like there is no trick. You're just like you just do the thing. I don't know how else to say it.
Have you experienced burnout?
Not yet. I want to say I feel like there are moments where I feel like I'm about to be experiencing burnout, where I'm like, oh, too much, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. Either a break or just keep going and it goes away, right? I think the takeaway there is no matter how you feel, it's temporary, and there is just the thing that you need to do, and you just do the thing.
So you've never thought of quitting?
I definitely thought of quitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I think we talked about it at the beginning a little bit, where it's like you start off and it's going nowhere, and I've already kind of like shot myself in the foot a couple of times where I've stopped posting because, as I said, I'm making a course, so I like in parallel to making the videos that I'm 2 videos a week that I'm making for YouTube, I'm also recording a course and I'm working a 9 to 5, right? So I'm sacrificing quite a bit where mainly it's going to be like relationships and maybe to some point physical health because I'm sitting in front of the computer too much. But yeah, when you are sacrificing a lot and nothing is coming back, you're definitely going to have thoughts like, why am I doing this thing that is bringing no fruit essentially? So yeah, the like is it gonna bring fruits in the end? I don't know. I guess I just kind of have to have faith. So God keeps me going, right?
Okay.
I wouldn't say I believe in God, but yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's a gamble.
Do you still enjoy it?
Yeah. When you make a good video, it's
But when you're done, when you see that 10 out of 10?
uh
And for those of
just
you,
keep going.
for those of you listening, YouTube, every time you publish a video in your analytics, you get a view showing how that video compares over time with the previous 10 videos you published. So if it's a 1 out of 10, it means it's doing really well. It's performing better than any of the other 9 videos you posted in the past. If it's a 10 out of 10, then it's below everything else. And that 10 out of 10, oh man, 8 to 10 is soul crushing, especially if you really believe in a video and it doesn't do well. Oh, and
you should try posting some Kotlin videos. You're gonna get the first video going like a couple of thousand, and then you're gonna get 100 views, and then the 100 like the way that I'm doing. I'm doing it currently with Python. So
right.
If I release my .NET video,
yeah,
I will get .NET videos are getting consistently more views right now, and then I will release a Python video on a Friday, and that just tanks to like 100, 200, where usually it will like go to 1,000. So
yeah. It's so weird because you also, in your case, you have to think of how that compares, not even between your last 10 videos, but within the last 5 relevant ones, the last 5 C#, the last 5. So it's like you have 2 rankings effectively, because a Python one will never really top the C# in your channel as it is, unless you're getting posted somewhere which you did not expect, and it just skyrockets. Interesting. Yeah, it can be really demotivating, but it can be such a dopamine hit. Like, I've published 2 videos recently who are both like 1 of 10s. You know, my ChatGPT video, and the other one was like the looping
that one
thing.
popped off completely.
Yeah, and you know what? I expected it, because at this point, the way I'm making videos is, and I think I told you about this in Oslo, I have the video title and the what I'm gonna put on the thumbnail, the text, before I have the content. And if I can't title a video well enough, I'm not gonna make the video at all. And in some cases I will, just to have filler videos, but it's rare that they're gonna perform well. I'm thinking about how can I title this correctly so people can actually click it. And it can be the exact same video content, but if it has 2 different titles and one of them is not as good, and as good, by the way, sometimes means 100% accurate, if you think about it, then it's not going to be watched for the exact same video. So yeah, it's really tricky. It can be really demotivating as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if things are going good and you get it, like if you're basically starting to depend on this, like, oh, feeling good, and that becomes the reason why you do it, then yeah, once it starts going south, your reason is essentially gone. So you're like, you will get essentially slightly depressed. I would say it's also if you're actively comparing yourself to other YouTubers who are doing good, then you're like, I should have all of those subscribers as well. Like, what is going on? So yeah, that could be very, very damaging as well, I'll say. But yeah, you know, I think all of it is like a bit of a challenge. It's like you get a tough thing that is coming your way. It's like, how can I spin it into a positive?
Have you looked at other creators on that same type of content to see what performs well and what type of videos to make?
The only research I do is mostly on you. So I look, I tried to see, because you gave me the advice. I guess I'm not gonna. You can say your tricks, but basically the advice that you gave me with regards to how you title and how you thumbnail and stuff like that. So I tried to apply it, and I would say it is working. So anytime, because I guess you are, because you're always coming up with these titles and you already have that way of thinking, I'm still struggling. So I will go on your feed and I will look through your videos and I'll be like, I can see why one video is going to be like an outlier and why the title there may or may not make sense. But yeah, but for how you come up with the titles, and I can understand the like how I can, or the thing that I'm making, how can I basically take your style of titles and basically wrangle my the concept of my video around it a little bit like that. Because I would say the only thing that I got for my titles is Google search. So like if somebody searches and it's a search engine optimized, that's the only thing that I ever kind of tried to base it on. I've recently got my friend received a notification about my video, and he showed me what the notification on the phone looks like. There is no thumbnail. There is only the title of the video that pops up. And I was like, the title at the moment of the release is more important than the thumbnail. So I was like,
yeah, that is exactly why I don't really care about clickbaiting thumbnails in terms of what's the content. I only clickbait the text and the thumbnail. And I'm actually using a tool that tells you how it looks, how the title will look in different applications. Not only because character length, usually they tell you never exceed 50 in character length. That's like the hard limit. But the font size, or like how long it is horizontally, also depends. And different if you do www, that's like 10 characters, but if you do 15 eyes, that is 15 characters, but equally as long. So even on mobile, even notifications, you can get cut off. So I always check that, but I do that for a reason. And I think some people sometimes, because in the comments they say, oh, the title should be this. Okay. And I want to talk about this here in the podcast because, and that's probably the perfect episode to talk about it. I've made a video on how to implement the circuit breaker pattern with Poly in .NET. Now, that video's title is the electrical pattern that will keep your .NET services alive. Right? And you're like, what the hell? Sounds interesting. Yes. I'll check. If I title this video how people want me to title this video, which is implementing circuit breaker with Poly in .NET, then you have three variables really here. You have circuit breaker, the pattern, Poly, and .NET. The reader, whoever watches the title, needs to know what all of these are in order to know if they should watch the video. Because out of context, those things can mean anything. And they're not really valuable to you. And to those who they are valuable is those who know what they are. You know what Poly is, you know what circuit breaker is, and you basically just watch your video to validate that what you know aligns with what I'm teaching. But if you're new to the concept, you're not gonna click something that doesn't tell you anything about what it's about to be. So you have to title your videos in a way that someone who without any knowledge on the subject can click on them and watch them. And that is the hardest thing. Because yes, I could title them in a way where like a blog would be titled, and then people who search for that specific thing can find it. But the way the YouTube algorithm works is not like that. So I can't name things the way I name a blog. So you have to be very, very careful.
That's exactly what I would do. I would just be like Poly circuit breaker in .NET.
Yeah, like that would not. And I've done that, and I compare it, and like over 2 years, that video got like 20,000 views or whatever. That other video has 60,000 views. You can argue the content is better, the video is better, whatever, but that is a very SEO-able title. It should perform better as evergreen content over time. It doesn't. So even if you don't like the titles, you do like them. You're just hating because they are named in a way that makes sense for the type of content. And that technique is not unique to .NET. It's a YouTube thing. So you sort of have to play the game of the platform. I wish I could title it the videos in the same way and have the same views, but I just can't. How do I know? I have my metrics, and I can see when I changed, and I can see when everything skyrocketed. And every video has a 98% like-dislike ratio. So it's not even something we can discuss at this point. I want to move into some .NET specific stuff, and I know we're 1 hour and so on. So let's see when we're gonna wrap this up. But I do want to ask you the question that someone asked in the chat before this live stream even started, which is, you have made more than 100 videos on authentication. In the same breath, you say that auth is easy in C#. ASP.NET Core creator David Fowler promised to write some articles on the topic a long time ago, but didn't do it. So what is your take on this comment?
So I don't actually know if I made 100 videos. I think that might be a little bit of an exaggeration. Basically means a tons of videos.
Yeah.
I think like most things, once you get it, it's easy. Okay. With authentication, people usually take it for granted. When was the last time you had a business use case that was, we need users in our platform, right? It is just a thing. You just have users in your platform that are doing things, right? But if you think about how much you needed to learn for programming, and then once you know how to program, how much you need to know how to write programs in a domain. So you coming from fintech, if you just know how to do .NET and then you move into fintech, you don't know .NET for fintech. If you're doing .NET and then you move into Unity, you don't know C# Unity, right? It's a completely different thing. If you're doing .NET and you're trying to do authentication, you don't know authentication. You just can't do it out of the box. It's just a skill that you gotta acquire. And if you think about, if you know C# and you're building web applications, you need to know about HTTP. You need to know about URL. You need to know about like basically these ideas, the HTTP specification, the URL, the URL specification. All of these are kind of like ingrained, but you had to learn them. It's not something that you learn with C#. Authentication is just that, but authentication is just that, and you just gotta step into the field and just actually understand what, how does it happen, right? Otherwise, if you take a look at authentication in .NET, let's say it like this: do you know what a dictionary is? So like a key value pair. Do you know what a strategy pattern is, right? So you just substitute the strategy pattern. So you have the authentication schema, which is a key, right? And then the value pair is an authentication handler, right? And there's also a strategy. So under a key, you have a strategy that you're invoking in the middleware. And again, if you don't know how the middleware works, you're instantaneously going to struggle, because you don't have the story of the browser making these individual lines to each individual endpoint. It is all going down this middleware pipeline, and then on the last box, that's where the endpoint gets resolved and the logic is invoked. But yeah, authentication in itself, I think some things are just built stupidly, but if you understand the concepts of key value pairs, dictionaries, strategies, and you understand the basics, which is dependency injection and middleware, it is very easy. And then you may say, okay, we come around to JWT, auth, OpenID Connect, and identity server, right? And how do you configure all of these clients? What do these error means? So there is the specification is very good for that. You just need to read it. You just literally need to be patient. You read it, you invest 1 or 2 days. You can read it in that time, and then you know you essentially know what you're configuring. And you understand the flow, why you need to go over there to get this one-time password to then exchange it for a token. And I think authentication itself is easy, like what to set it up. The hard bit about authentication is coming up with the idea. The hard bit is the person that went ahead and said, all right, we need to do these steps to obtain the token, right? So the person who's writing the auth spec, the person who invented encryption to encrypt your cookie so it's secure while in your browser, the people who are building the browser to store your cookies securely. Like, most of that stuff is hard, I believe. But again, encryption, we are using it left, right, and center. Who here can basically say, I know what encryption is? 100%, right? Encryption is a domain of its own, and you need to really understand what you're doing if you're going to enter it.
So auth.
So yeah, I think it's sorry.
So auth is hard.
Once you start, I think once you have it, you know what you're doing. It's not as hard as people think.
Do you think that identity server made the right decision?
100%.
Okay. I agree. I hope at some point to have Brock and Dominic here, because I want to know about that story. Well, I mean, I do know quite a bit, actually. I was hanging out with Brock in NDC, Minnesota. And we talked a bit about it, and I'm sure we can talk way more about it. But based on what I heard, like, it's very interesting how that evolved. So yeah, for those of you who are mad about the identity server stuff, uh, don't, because I do believe that they did the right thing, and I do believe largely that free open source, the way we're used to it, it's just really not sustainable for the creators. Like you
Yeah,
said with a YouTube channel, you need that Patreon to drive that, but it can't be based on goodwill alone.
yeah. 1.5 years ago, if you tell me this question, I'll be like, no, they should have stayed open source.
Yeah.
No chance. Yeah, you need to get paid for your hard work, and I think more open source it needs to be rewarding their creators.
So I don't think I've asked you about this actually, but what do you think about minimal APIs?
I think they're fine. I think they're perfect.
Okay.
The one
Thanks.
thing, the one thing I will disagree on the design is they have a section. If you open up the build function, they have the bit which pre-configures the default middleware, and there is a section about inserting the source, so you can essentially instead of supplying a strategy for configuring the middleware, you gotta like put it outside alongside your endpoints essentially. Of course, you can put it in a different file if you know how to program and how to create classes. Just okay. I'm gonna discard that whole argument. You put it in a different file. Okay, don't be stupid. That's my only beef with the with minimal APIs. It's just endpoints. Like, what more do you need?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few goofs on the minimal API front. Those being you build your app, but you do service registration after the build method because you're allowed to. But like at that point, you have the app, so it won't go anywhere. It's just instructions. Services are not sequential, but the app calls are, because the middleware, like you said. So you have to make sure you do them in order. There's overloads in the request delegate where you don't have to return anything, and if you don't return, the code will compile without a warning. I think they might have added some warnings now in .NET 7, and they might add more. But you could just say a variable reference or whatever, and never return, and the code just builds. Even now, you can do that. So there are a few hiccups where you can actually get it wrong. But what can you do? I do agree that, especially for microservices, it's bread and butter. It should have been there since forever. And actually, Damien in the previous podcast, which I highly recommend you check out, explained more on the rationale and why they didn't arrive earlier and why they are the thing that they want to promote now. So I'm really happy with that. Since you're coding with so many languages, what would you say compared to the other languages you're using, the pros and cons of C# are? Maybe the biggest ones.
In C#, there are a lot of ways to express yourself. So you have an idea and you can write it out. So for example, if you take a language like Java, it is very non-feature rich. So it ends up being more verbose than C# is. I know there are new versions that are coming out. The JDKs are a complete mess, right? So another good thing about .NET like you download an installer, you execute it, you're ready to go. Okay, Java, you gotta accept some kind of license, right? You gotta it's ridiculous the kind of stuff you need to do with Java. But yeah, you have a very the language feels a lot nicer. And one of the biggest pains I think of C# is I don't know. I guess that's why I'm mainly programming in it.
Okay, I was about to say, for those of you still listening, your headphones didn't stop. He was just thinking.
Yeah.
So what is your second favorite language then, if you could not use C sharp?
If I wouldn't be programming in C sharp, I'd be programming in Clojure.
Clojure.
Clojure, yeah.
Oh wow! Why?
I like how you have to think when you program in it.
What changes for someone who has never touched the language before? How, especially with the mindset of a C sharp developer, let's say.
Mm-hmm. You focus on what's important, and that's the data.
Yeah.
And you're manipulating the data. That's mainly what you're doing. Okay? So, with that being said, you may start thinking, like, when you think about how to manipulate data in C sharp, what do? Well, first you need a class. Then you need a service that is going to start none of that, right? As you think about what data looks like in your head, that's how you're working on it. And the syntax is minimal. It's amazing how little syntax you actually need to do work. And plus it's Lisp, so it looks cool.
Very good question in chat. I'm gonna ignore that last bit, and I'm gonna say I don't know if it's Moke or Moke, but have you played with C sharp F sharp before?
No.
Okay, I have a feeling that the F sharp crowd would say that F sharp is like that as well.
Maybe, I don't know.
Why haven't you tried
Clojure is dynamic. I just never had the chance. Clojure I've touched in university, and that's where basically I just really enjoyed it. So I explored it on my own, and that's when, after like doing the explorations and trying to build a web server in it, and at some point when I was programming, I was like, if you think about like classes and patterns and all of that, how like it just all faded away. I never got that chance with F sharp where like, yeah, nobody told me like try F sharp or try to build something with F sharp. That never happened. So yeah, never tried it.
Okay, and I'm gonna wrap this section and also the podcast with a question, which is, what is your favorite .NET controversy / .NET drama?
I really don't get involved in any of that.
As an observer.
As an observer, the drop the dots, I think, is dumb. That's not gonna happen. Whatever Microsoft is doing, like I heard, I've seen like some open source project getting removed from documentation or something, but them still leaving
shop,
but them still leaving identity server, right? I think people who are complaining about that, well, there are two camps. First of all, it's we're all using Microsoft's tools. It's Microsoft's vision. We need to respect whatever it is, even if it can be, I don't know, maybe greedy on some level or whatever, corporation, etc. But also, I think the point of view that you would take is Microsoft supporting the community makes the community stronger, which basically creates more business for us content creators. So the more people in .NET, the better for us. But maybe Microsoft can see a revenue, or they're a big company. They need to do license or whatever legal things, nothing that I know about. So that's why I don't comment on it. I think like Microsoft did whatever they needed to do. And I try not to look at it as it's affecting me in any way. I can't, like, I already have too much on my plate. I can't be going around, oh, Microsoft is doing, that's gonna like, I now cannot make videos. I'm gonna go on a strike or whatever. Like, that's definitely not gonna happen for me,
Yeah. I think the drop the dot thing isn't happening. I get the rationale, and I think they should have done it when they transitioned to .NET Core.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, it's just no way.
Too far. Maybe with .NET 10 or sure. X.
They're gonna do an Apple and call it .NET X.
I don't know. If there's gonna be a .NET X, there's gonna be a what's it called? .NET X meeting.
I'm wondering if they're gonna change to like year releases, like .NET 2023.
Well, I
Because
hope they do.
at some point, you will reach like .NET 65 or something eventually.
Well, the more I think there is like first of all, if they do, it's a good video topic. We get to re-explain all the
Oh yeah.
versionings, right? The second one is, I think the reason C# is changing so much is uh, like it may be actually a bad thing at the same time. If you're always having changes and you're just sitting there learning the tool instead of doing productive things with the tool, you know, is it even worth to keep releasing .NET? But if it's the thing that they want to have for, for forever, they will need to keep updating it. But yeah, the versioning that they take on it, I don't know. I'll be good with it, whatever.
Okay. Well, okay, we are approaching the 2 hour mark. So I'll just ask you this last question, which is, what is next for raw coding?
I am going to try to release mainly. I'm gonna try to release my own educational platform. So if you think Udemy, Pluralsight, where from the beginning it's not going to be there, but the idea is to have a mind map of a course, essentially. So if so just to give an example, if I explain what a string is in video number 1, and I'm using it in 10 videos down the line, and you need to know what a string is again, you don't need to go look for it somewhere else. It's basically like, if you think about documentation, you have a bunch of references, and then the main storyline is tutorials. So you're building stuff. Anytime I'm mentioning words, so like some kind of vocabulary, if I'm saying like idempotent or something like that, I want to be able to see how you have a topic that is basically covering a video and how that links to all the other videos. But that's mainly that's the main focus of mine these days. Otherwise, YouTube channel wise, keep making videos that I think is going to move people away from creating goddamn repositories.
Okay.
Well, like focusing on CQRS and repository patterns and stuff like that, because I think it's one of the more boring parts. You have things like let's say what's called Orleans or Akka.net for the actor framework. So what kind of example can we get with that to actually start using the actor framework? And what is actually an actor framework, right?
Cool. Well, all right. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining me here. Very interesting chat and very insightful things in many different topics. And do you have anything you want to ask? Anything you saw in the chat and you want to address? Just as we're wrapping this up.
I was I had the chat off, so I guess if there are any otherwise I'll be getting distracted or psyched out. So yeah, I mean, I guess if there are any more questions in the chat that people want to ask, I can answer them. But yeah, otherwise I guess really glad. Thank you for inviting me. Really happy to be here.
Always, man. Always. Like I said, we talked in Oslo for the first time, and I'm like, when I do that damn podcast, which was supposed to be launched in September actually, but live, like I wanted to be a guest. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, and thanks all of you who are here live. Again, those podcasts are actually streamed live on my YouTube channel, Nick Chapsas, and then later the VOD is uploaded on the Keep Coding Podcast YouTube channel. So thank you so much for being here in the chat and for watching. And as always, keep coding. Thank you so much for being here, Anton.
Thank you.